How do you become a leader? How do you lead people? For people that are just coming into this for the first time, my hope is to like really give you a good insight into business and marketing that you might not be able to get anywhere else. So we'll start with leadership. The people that are leaders are people who are solving problems that nobody else wants to solve. That is basically what a leader is. So let's give an example that's like really extreme. Let's say that you are walking along the street and you see somebody get hit by a car. There is going to be a huge percentage of people that just do not want to involve themselves with that situation. They are going to stand around. They're going to look. They're going to be like, oh my God, that is horrible. Someone should call the police. Someone should do something. The person who is like, all right, call EMS, like you go call 911, rushes up, checks the situation, like sees if the car's on fire and somebody needs to be pulled out, assesses the situation, controls the crowd. Someone's going to take initiative, right? I think of a video that just surfaced recently. There was a crazy person on a plane that thought that they were like one of the three wise men, and they're just basically threatening to take over the plane. And basically everybody just kind of sits in their chair, chill, kind of want to see what's going to happen, yeah? And then when the guy finally starts getting belligerent enough, he like starts attacking people, then there's a couple of guys that get up and they knock the guy down, control him, whatever. Most people, those are leaders, right? Most people don't view those people as leaders, but those are people that same initiative, that same energy is the energy that you need to become a leader. You're saying, okay, I'm going to solve a problem that nobody else really wants to solve because there's a ton of reasons not to solve that problem, right? On that airplane. Like number one, maybe this guy has a weapon and he's crazy, he's going to kill me, and I'm putting myself in mortal danger by doing so. Maybe in that accident example, I like harm a person or something, like I like pull them out of the car and now I break their neck doing so, and I'm medically liable. There's like a million different reasons to not be a leader, right? Just like in business, there's a million different reasons not to be a leader. Like, oh, I don't want to be the one that gets in trouble when that fails. It's exactly the same energy, okay? So a leader is a person that says, well, I don't care about any of that stuff. I'm going to take the risk and I'm just going to do it because somebody needs to do it, right? So a leader is a person who fundamentally is willing to solve problems that are either too risky or just too complex or too problematic for people to want to do themselves. Most people think that given a leadership position, they can do fairly well. And they think that because they view leadership in not so mortal of terms. And the reason I used those examples, like the takeover plane example and the paramedic example, is because there is significant risk and fear in being a leader and solving these problems. The failure cost is very high. That's why no one wants to do it. It isn't because the issue is too complex. Given a situation where somebody is forced to lead, they will oftentimes step up to the plate. And they might make mistakes. Like there have been many examples of this in war, and Jocko Willink, a content contributor, talks a ton about this, where let's say that your entire battalion is decimated, and the only people that can step up to lead are privates. Well, that can happen, and those people, given that situation, will do the best they can. So it is generally not that reason that people fail to be leaders. It's because nobody is willing to take the risk to cost of failure voluntarily. They would have to either be forced to do it via urgency, such as like a wartime situation, or they are driven to do that in some way. They're the only people that can, etc. The best leaders are often not people who are reading the books on how to lead. They're people who are on the ground who have volunteered to do this. So the things that I want you to associate with the word leadership is like courage, right? Risk assessment, the ability to take risk, that kind of stuff is more important than like leadership experience, reading books about leadership, understanding management styles. So individual contributors are usually, not always, but usually just people who do not want to step up to the plate and lead and take the risk of that, which is fine, right? Individual contributors can get paid $400K, $500K a year as architects at Amazon. You can become very successful in life by not being a leader. There are a lot of people who say that being a leader is basically the only path forward for anybody that wants to like make a lot of money or impact on the world. I don't think that's true. I think there are individual contributors that can do just as much. It's really just a personal decision you make to be a leader. As a leader, myself, I can confidently say that. I've run multiple companies, and I am in those social situations, I will always take charge of the problem and say, how do we solve this? That is just my DNA, and I've kind of like built myself into that person consciously to be a leader. There's a lot of cost to doing that, right? Like, and I respect and think of equals individual contributors who are just like, you know what, that's not for me, but I'm still going to make huge impact in this area. I'm going to code, I'm going to write, I'm going to create content, I'm going to do whatever that individual contribution is. I'm going to be just the world's best UX designer or front stack developer or whatever that never gets that spotlight and never has to make decisions for my team, but I'm going to do really well. And you'll see that like leadership can be really overrated if you look at like Twitter's current situation, where all of the individual contributors that got promoted within Twitter up to like middle management positions where they're now running like 4 or 5 person teams, and they stopped coding and they stopped doing whatever was making them an individual contributor, are not actually worth that much to the company when somebody like Elon comes in and says, we're going to fire 60% of the staff that's not actually working. Because what was the first thing that he did? Who's coding? Who's actually like show me your work, right? And he's done that over and over again. And a bunch of these leaders, quote, like people that are just there to run a 4 or 5 person team that are not executors anymore or were never executors, just they get ousted. And that is the first people to go in the 11,000 people that got laid off from Amazon, the 8,000 people that got laid off from Google, the 9,000 people that got laid off from Stripe, etc. They are the leaders, right? The managers that aren't really doing anything. So don't like put a bow on leadership and dress it up and make it all romantic or whatever, right? It's not. Individual contributors are just as important, if not more important, when it comes down to it. Now, leaders that can execute, woo, now we're getting to something hot. That's good, right? So if a leader is on the ground doing the work, that's impressive, but those are pretty rare. That's what I think about leadership.